It is a story that almost defies belief, a tale spun from the threads of history and legend. History legend. We must travel back in time, nearly 3,000 years, to a kingdom drenched in sunlight and shimmering with gold. This was the dominion of King Solomon, a name that has echoed through the ages as a synonym for wisdom and immense wealth. Wisdom, unimaginable riches. The Bible tells us that silver in Jerusalem was as common as stones on the road. Think about that for a moment. What we consider a precious metal was, for Solomon, little more than gravel underfoot. His coffers overflowed not with mere coins, but with tons of pure gold, delivered annually from distant lands. His trade networks were the arteries of the ancient world, stretching from the mysterious lands of Ophir to the bustling ports of Tarshish. Ophir-Tarshish great ships, a navy of commerce, would sail out on 3-year journeys and return laden with wonders. They brought back not only gold and silver, but also exotic hardwoods, precious gems, and creatures the people of Jerusalem had only heard of in whispers and myths. Apes and peacocks roamed the palace grounds, living symbols of a king whose reach extended to the farthest corners of the known world. This wasn't just wealth hoarded in a vault. It was wealth that was alive, that breathed and moved through the city. Caravans of camels, their bells tinkling in the desert air, arrived daily, carrying spices, textiles, and technologies from Arabia and beyond. The Queen of Sheba, a powerful monarch from a land rich in its own right, journeyed for months just to witness Solomon's splendor and test his famed wisdom. She came with a great retinue, bearing gifts of spices, gold, and precious stones. Yet when she saw his kingdom, she confessed that the reality far surpassed the incredible stories she had heard. Solomon's Jerusalem was a global hub, a center of commerce and culture that stood as a testament to his power and influence. Every street, every building, every citizen was part of this grand tapestry of prosperity. The air itself seemed thick with the scent of rare incense and the hum of relentless activity. This was more than a kingdom. It was an empire of affluence, built on a foundation of divine blessing and astute leadership. It was a golden age, presided over by a king whose name was spoken with awe from Egypt to Mesopotamia, a monarch richer than any who had come before or would ever follow. Of all Solomon's monumental achievements, none was more significant or sacred than the great temple he built in Jerusalem. This was not just another magnificent building. It was to be the permanent dwelling place for the Ark of the Covenant, the very house of God on earth. For 7 years, a massive workforce of over 150,000 men labored to bring this vision to life. The finest materials were sourced, giant, perfectly cut stones from the quarries, massive cedar logs floated down from the forests of Lebanon. An alliance with King Hiram of Tyre ensured a steady supply of these precious woods, renowned for their beauty and durability. The construction itself was an act of reverence. We are told that no sound of hammer, chisel, or any iron tool was heard at the temple site during its construction. The stones were hewn and finished at the quarry, then brought to the holy mountain and fitted together in divinely orchestrated silence. The interior of this sacred house was even more breathtaking. The walls and floors were paneled with fragrant cedar wood, so no stone was visible inside. Then, Solomon overlaid the entire interior with pure gold. The floors, the walls, the ceilings, even the inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, were all covered in a seamless, gleaming skin of gold. Within the Holy of Holies, the most sacred space, he placed 2 enormous cherubim, angelic figures carved from olive wood and overlaid with gold. Their wings stretched from one wall to the other, creating a protective canopy over the spot where the Ark of the Covenant would rest. The detailed craftsmanship was everywhere. Carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers adorned the walls and doors, all covered in gold. Golden chains, a golden altar for incense, and golden lampstands filled the holy place. It was a structure designed to overwhelm the senses and lift the human spirit toward the divine. With the temple built and his kingdom secure, Solomon embarked on a new project, the pursuit of personal fulfillment. He had achieved unparalleled power, wealth, and respect. Now, he set out to test the limits of human experience. In his own words, written later in life, he declared, "I said to myself, 'Come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good.'" He denied himself nothing. Whatever his eyes desired, he did not keep from them. He withheld no pleasure from his heart. His quest for satisfaction became his new grand experiment, and he had the resources to conduct it on a scale never seen before. He built magnificent houses for himself. Not just one palace, but a complex of royal buildings that took 13 years to complete. He planted vast vineyards, creating wines to gladden his heart. He designed and cultivated incredible gardens and parks, planting in them every kind of fruit tree imaginable. He engineered pools and aqueducts to water his flourishing forests. He surrounded himself with beauty, both natural and man-made, crafting a personal paradise where every sensual delight was available. His life became a carefully curated collection of the finest experiences the world had to offer. His pursuit extended to companionship and entertainment. He amassed a royal harem of 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, cementing political alliances while exploring the depths of love and desire. He hired male and female singers, the greatest musicians of the age, to fill his halls with beautiful melodies. Years passed. The gold lost its luster, not to tarnish, but to the tired eyes of the king who had seen everything. We now see an older Solomon. The vibrant, decisive ruler is gone, replaced by a stooped figure walking slowly through the silent, cavernous halls of his magnificent palace. The laughter of courtiers and music of singers have faded into memory. Now, the only sound is the soft shuffle of his sandals on the golden floors and the loud, persistent echo of his thoughts. The grand rooms, once symbols of greatness, now feel like monuments to something missing. He wanders through breathtaking gardens, past exotic trees and shimmering pools he so carefully designed. The fragrance of blossoms no longer brings him joy. The sweet taste of fruit no longer delights his palate. He sees the intricate systems he built, the scale of his accomplishments, but the pride he once felt has curdled into a hollow ache. He had sought pleasure in these things, and for a time he found it. But pleasure is a fleeting visitor, and once it departs, the emptiness it leaves behind feels larger and more profound than before. The faces of his wives and concubines blur together in his mind. The alliances they represented, moments of passion, political triumphs, all seem like scenes from a play in which he was merely an actor. The love he sought in 1,000 arms left him feeling more alone than ever. He built a dynasty, but felt disconnected from his legacy. His children were part of a complex and often contentious court. The joy of family and connection, the simple human warmth he perhaps overlooked, was now what he craved most, and it seemed to be the one treasure he could not procure. Even his wisdom, his greatest gift, had become a source of sorrow. He had studied the cycles of life, the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, the way generations come and go. He saw patterns, endless repetition, a world in constant motion, but ultimately going nowhere. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, he would later write. The more knowledge, the more grief. His brilliant mind, which had solved the riddles of queens and governed a nation, could not solve the riddle of his soul. He had everything a man could dream of, profoundly unhappy, deeply unhappy. Meaningless, cries the king. Inexplicably unhappy. It is from this place of profound disillusionment that a single powerful word begins to emerge, a word that defines Solomon's entire reflection on his life. The word is Hebel in the original Hebrew. It is often translated as vanity or futility, but its core meaning is more like a puff of smoke, a mist, a vapor. It's something you can see for a moment, but when you try to grasp it, your hand closes on empty air. For Solomon, this word became the lens through which he viewed all his life's work. Meaningless, he cries out. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. This is not the declaration of a bitter, impoverished man. This is the conclusion of the richest, wisest, and most successful man who ever lived. He looks back at his frantic pursuit of wealth, the tons of gold, the fleets of ships, the bustling trade, and he sees a vapor. He accumulated it all, but for what? He cannot take it with him. It brought him temporary power and luxury, but it did not bring him lasting contentment. The labor, the worry, the striving, it was all in the end like chasing the wind. It was a meaningless pursuit that left him just as empty as when he started, only older and more tired. He then turns his gaze to his pursuit of pleasure. It is easy for us to look back at Solomon's story as a distant, almost mythical tale. Gold as common as stones, a throne of ivory. It seems so far removed from our own lives. But is it? The human heart, it seems, has not changed much in 3,000 years. The specific objects of our desire may have evolved, but the underlying chase remains eerily the same. Solomon's grand palaces of cedar and gold have simply been replaced by the modern mansions of Beverly Hills and the penthouses overlooking Central Park, filled with designer furniture and fine art. Solomon's fleet of ships that brought back apes and peacocks from Tarshish has its modern equivalent. Today, it is a garage filled with exotic cars, a Lamborghini, a Rolls-Royce, a vintage Ferrari. It is the private jet waiting on the tarmac, ready to whisk its owner away to a private island or an exclusive ski resort in the Alps. Solomon's wealth was measured in tons of gold. Today, it is measured in billions of dollars in a stock portfolio, numbers on a screen that fluctuate with the whims of the market. The pursuit of more, of better, of the best, is a song that our generation knows by heart. And what of social status and influence? Solomon had the Queen of Sheba travel for months to see his glory. Today we have social media, a digital court where glory is measured in likes, followers, and shares. We curate our lives, posting pictures of luxurious vacations, expensive meals, and perfect families. Much like Solomon curated his gardens and palaces, we build a public image of success and happiness, hoping for the validation and envy of others. We chase influence, becoming kings and queens of our own small digital kingdoms, broadcasting our splendor to the world, hoping it will make us feel important, seen, and valued. The parallel is striking. We too are chasing the wind. We spend our lives accumulating possessions that will one day rust or be discarded. We build careers that will eventually end. We chase fleeting moments of pleasure and pixels of validation, believing that the next acquisition, the next promotion, or the next 1,000 followers will finally fill that persistent emptiness inside. We are, in our own way, all living in Solomon's court, desperately trying to build a throne of our own, hoping it will bring us the lasting peace and meaning that it failed to give him. The great paradox of Solomon's story and of our modern world is the stark contrast between external riches and internal poverty. From the outside, Solomon had it all. He was the envy of the world. His Instagram feed, had it existed, would have been the most envied in history. Every post would have showcased a life of absolute perfection, a highlight reel of success, wisdom, luxury. But behind the gilded facade, behind the confident smile for the crowds, was a man wrestling with a profound poverty of the soul. This is a loneliness that wealth cannot cure. In fact, extreme wealth can often be an isolating force. It builds walls, not bridges. It creates suspicion and distance. Who can you trust? Are people drawn to you, or to your money, or to your status? Solomon, surrounded by 1,000 wives and countless servants, was ultimately alone with his existential dread. In the same way, we see celebrities, billionaires, influencers who seem to have everything, yet they speak of crippling loneliness, anxiety, depression. The internal emptiness comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what the human spirit truly needs. We are born with a deep-seated desire for purpose, meaning, connection to something larger than ourselves. After his long and exhaustive journey through every possible avenue of human experience, after concluding that everything under the sun was meaningless, Solomon does not end his story in despair. His epic experiment, his deep dive into the nature of existence, finally leads him to a single, profound, and hopeful conclusion. He has stripped away all the distractions, all the false promises of wealth, pleasure, human wisdom. He is left with the essential truth, the bedrock of a life well lived. He shares this final piece of wisdom not as a king from a throne, but as a teacher, a fellow traveler who has walked a long and difficult road. Now all has been heard, he writes. Here is the conclusion of the matter, he says, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. This is the beginning and the end of all true wisdom.